Do you always make a muslin before you cut your fabric? Do you just live dangerously, cut the fabric, and go for it? How about if we adopt a third option that hopefully minimizes sewing fails but quickly gets you to the fun part of sewing? Do you want to sew clothes but you're worried that they will look homemade? If you're ready to expand your sewing skills and sew clothes you and your family will love to wear, you're in the right place. I'm Lisa, a wife, mom to 3, Gigi to 2, and a pattern designer for children's clothes. I discovered that choosing the right fabric and sewing techniques can make all the difference in allowing you to confidently sew clothes you will love. If you're looking for help planning your next sewing project, then fire up that sewing machine, dive into your fabric stash, and let's sew with confidence. A podcast is a wonderful vehicle, but it is a one-way conversation, and I would love to get to know you and hear about your sewing journey. Join me over on Facebook in our free Sewing with Confidence group, where we can discuss all things fabric, sewing tools and notions, and sewing garments we love. You can connect with fellow sewists, engage in fun sewing challenges, and find a supportive community of fellow sewing sisters. Come join the free Facebook group. The link is facebook.com/groups/Sew with Confidence podcast. Of course, the link will be in the show notes below. And let's sew with confidence. Do you always make up a muslin before you sew a new woven top pattern? I have to admit, I often don't. Maybe I just love to live dangerously, but I want to get to the fun part of sewing, and I often don't consider sewing a muslin fun. Now, while I often skip the muslin, that doesn't mean that I go straight to cutting out my precious fabric. There are several things that I check first, and those checks often show me the adjustments that I want to make to the pattern before I cut out my fabric. They also clue me in that I might actually need to make a muslin and show me some adjustments that I might want to make to the pattern before I ever make the muslin. So let's dive into those 4 checks. So first of all, the top needs to fit through the neckline and the shoulders, and that is the hardest area to change or modify. So in order to make sure it's going to fit there, the most important thing is to pick the correct size. I know, state the obvious, Lisa, right? Of course, we need to pick the correct size. Often we pick the size based on the full bust measurement, and yet that often results in an incorrect size through the shoulders and the neckline. And since that shoulders and neckline is so difficult, often impossible to adjust after we've cut out the fabric, this is something that we can easily fix if we take a little bit different approach. So let me explain. Most women's tops patterns are drafted for a B cup sized bust. Now that has nothing to do with your bra size. A B cup in sewing means that there's a 2-inch difference between your upper or high bust measurement and your full bust measurement. So the high bust is measured by placing the tape measure around the fullest part of your bust and then pulling the front of the tape measure up over the bust so that it's snug under the arms. Now this gives a more accurate measurement through the top of the chest and shoulders. You then compare that upper or high bust measurement to the full bust measurement. If the pattern is drafted for a B cup and you have, let's say, 3 or 4 inches difference between your 2 measurements, then you will need a full bust adjustment. If you have a 1-inch difference, you will need a small bust adjustment. Now, more and more indie pattern designers are offering patterns with cup size choices, and I think that is the most wonderful development, and we should fully support them. So the point here is to pick the size based on the high bust measurement and then adjust the pattern to accommodate whatever your full bust measurement is. Now, the second thing that I always check is the dart placement. Patterns are drafted from blocks with a standard dart placement. However, women have children. We have hormones. Our weight fluctuates. We age. My experience has been that if you have ever had a child or you're in the second half of your life, you will probably need to lower the dart. Altering the dart is really simple, and I'll link to a blog post that will show you how to do it. But unless your pattern has a large seam allowance, it can be hard to do once the fabric is cut out. Of course, if you're making a muslin, that's one way to check the dart placement, but it can be easily checked just by holding the pattern up to your body. Place the shoulder stitching line on your shoulder and see where the dart is landing. The point of the dart should point to your bust apex, and it should stop at least 1 inch before the apex. The goal of the dart is to create shape and provide volume where it is needed. If the dart is in the wrong place, then you're creating volume where you don't want it, and you're not giving your body the volume where it needs it. The third thing we want to check is the shoulder placement. Now, while you're holding that pattern piece up to your body because you just checked the dart, check where the sleeve will attach to the shoulder. Now, this one is a little bit trickier to judge because, of course, there are drop shoulder designs and there are cut-in shoulder designs, and we don't always have the shoulder and the sleeve, that seam where they're attaching, that doesn't always sit right on the shoulder point. But if the pattern shows that that is where it's supposed to sit, then you want to double check that it's actually hitting your body at that point. And if it isn't, make the adjustment now. Lastly, we want to check if just the overall measurements make sense. So lay the pattern pieces out, take your tape measure, and start checking some measurements. Start with the width across the bust. Does that measurement make sense to you? Now, there could be quite a bit of design ease here. And if you're wondering whether or not that measurement makes sense, I would go check out the podcast I just did on the 3 types of ease, and that'll help you get a better sense of how to judge this measurement. After you've checked the bust, check the overall length. Is that something that you're happy with? For example, if you're making a cropped top, but the pattern is coming in 2 inches shorter than everything in your closet, well, maybe this would be a good time to add an inch or 2 now. You can always shorten the garment before you hem it, but you can't add the length once it's cut. Check the neckline. Do you like the width? How low is the neckline? Does the width of the shoulders make sense? Check garments in your closet to see if the numbers on the pattern are lining up with the pieces that you own and love. If the numbers aren't making sense, then that's your clue that maybe this is a pattern that you do need to make a muslin for, and you want to go do that before you cut into your good fabric. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Before we start cutting out our fabric, here are the 4 things that we want to check when we're making a woven top. The first one is we're going to pick the size of the top based on our upper bust measurement, and then we're going to adjust the pattern for the full bust measurement if it's needed. The second thing is we're going to check the dart placement and adjust that if needed. Number 3, we're going to check the shoulder point placement and make sure we're happy with that. And finally, we're going to check just the overall measurements, the ease, the length, how the neckline falls, and just make sure that the numbers we're getting are comparable to garments that we have and love. If those numbers aren't comparable, then that's our clue. We're going to take the extra time and go make a muslin. I hope these tips help minimize your sewing fails and help you to sew a woven top that you love. Now go pick out a great woven top pattern. I'd love to see you in our free Facebook group, and come and show us what pattern are you going to sew for yourself, and let us know, are you making a muslin or not? Happy sewing! Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something along the way. If so, would you take 30 seconds and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts? Leaving a review is the best way to help support this show. Also, please remember to hit follow or subscribe. It just makes my day to know you're enjoying this podcast. Now go take a few minutes for yourself and sew something. Your sewing machine misses you. I'll meet you back here on Tuesdays and Fridays for another episode. Happy sewing!